Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our Center Court session on Executive MBA Programs. We're going to talk about where an EMBA can take your career. And to do that, we have two representatives of great business schools, UNC at Chapel Hill, Kenan-Flagler Business School, and SMU Cox's Business School in Texas. From SMU Cox, we have Annie Cadigan-Dunlap, who is a director of the Career Management Center at the Cox School. And at UNC in North Carolina, we have Bill Faulkner. He's a senior associate director of career coaching and programming. Welcome. So maybe let's start with just the basics. Give us the lowdown on your executive MBA program. Let's start with you, Bill, at UNC. What's the structure of it? What does it look like? What does it take to get through it?
Okay. Yeah, the take is a whole loaded question, but in terms of the questions themselves, we run three different executive programs. We have what we call the evening program, which meets once a week. We have what we call our weekend program, where those students come in once a month, alternating between virtual, real time, and then on site at our conference center that's near our main campus. And then last fall, we just launched our new, what we call Charlotte Executive Program. It kind of mirrors the cadence and calendar of our evening program. There are a little bit of differences there, but that's been real exciting for us. We're located right downtown Charlotte in the financial and downtown district. So we have three programs. We run two cohorts about at any given time. They go year round. And so that kind of equates to, at this point, we just onboarded a new group of what we call our evening Charlotte 25. So about 300 students at any given time.
And are they hybrid programs or all in person?
They're pretty much all in person. We did a little bit of change with our weekend program. That used to be always in person, just to kind of help students with travel and things. We do on the every other month do what we call a virtual but real time class sessions. And of course, there's async work in between courses, but no, these are all seated, so to speak, courses during the course of their program.
Great. And Annie, how about Cox? How does it structure its EMBA program?
Yeah, thanks a lot. So SMU Cox, just for people who don't know, we're located in the heart of Dallas, and Texas right now is really the epicenter of the business and finance growth that we're seeing pretty much across the United States. So the exciting thing for people who are coming to SMU Cox for an EMBA is that we are an in-person program. Our cohorts run between 40 and 50 students. We operate a single EMBA program that comes to campus 2 weekends a month, depending on the month. Looks a little different in December, looks a little different when you're starting the program. The program lasts for 2 years, so you're doing 2 semesters in your first year. You also do the summer on campus, and then you do 2 semesters in your second year, and you're done. So that's what we look like right now. And we are very excited to say that we're going to be offering a January cohort for the first time ever. We're assembling that group of people right now. So we've only had a fall start up until 2024, but starting in January, we'll have a new cohort coming in for the in-person EMBA program.
That's great. That tells me there's more demand in part from all the economic growth that's going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas. So if you were to name, Annie, the 3 hallmarks of your program, things that either differentiate it or things that truly resonate with the students, what would the 3 things be?
I would think, number one, I think the quality of the student in the program with you is really what I think attracts our EMBA to that particular program. Most of our people have 15 years, 8 to 15 years of experience, some even greater than that. And so there's an expectation of business experience, executive communication, ability to work cross-functionally within a group. I think that is one of the key things that draws people into this program here. Additionally, I think the quality of the faculty and the format of the classroom, being in person with top SMU professors, working on classroom discussions, working on case-oriented classroom problems, doing directed studies. This type of hands-on learning is really what I see our EMBAs thriving in. And then I think the other thing I think I see people really absorbing and wanting to be a part of is the network that is the SMU Cox MBA in general. But really, most of the people who are doing our EMBA program have seen other people in their network do our EMBA program. They've seen the outcomes. They've seen what type of business experience and business outcomes these people are achieving with the EMBA. And that is attracting them to our program here in Dallas.
Yeah, terrific. Bill, what would be the three things at Kenan-Flagler?
Yeah, well, I would echo much what Annie says, but kind of applies here. As where we're located, just to brag on our region a little bit, we're in the near or close to the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area, which is a big tech hub, not only in what we call big tech, but also biotech, biopharma, healthcare, as well as some manufacturing. And of course, now with our anchor in Charlotte, that gives us access to a lot of the finance and banking areas as well. So I think that part of that is a strong draw for our students. They want to be part of that. They may relocate closer to start classes, even though it's an executive program, just so they have access to that upon graduation or during their program. We operate through a cohort model in the first part of their program. I think that's very attractive to our students. They like getting to know the other students. This is, as I'm sure as Annie can attest, these are rigorous programs. These are not what we call MBA light by any stretch of the imagination. So I think our students enjoy going through the programs. Our students, most of them have young families, so they're juggling an awful lot. So I think having to be able to rely on each other and have that mutual peer support, I think, is a hallmark of the program. And other things that Annie mentioned, our alumni network is very strong and it's worldwide, and as well as faculty that when I interact with our faculty, they really enjoy this population of students. And of course, that's not to say anything negative against a full-time crowd, but they really enjoy the fact that these students are working. As we often say, class on Monday, applying on Tuesday. And I think the students really enjoy that aspect as well. I'm sure Annie can probably resonate with that as well as what she's heard from her students. So I think those are the several, I guess, and hopefully I haven't gone above my three, of hallmarks or strengths of our program.
That's great. Now, Annie mentioned that the amount of work experience a student brings into their executive MBA program is between 8 and 15 years. What level of professional experience are you looking for? And is it possible to be too young or too old? Bill?
Well, by definition, our programs, you have to have at least 2 years required for our evening and Charlotte programs. Most of our students have obviously more than that, around 6 to 10. Our weekend programs tends to skew a little bit older, more like 10 years on average. So, but I always enjoy when I talk to students, the fun thing is that you have this richness and disparity of age, anywhere from upper 20s to maybe 50s people, and then everything in between. I think average age is around 32 in the evening program, about 35 in the weekend program. But I think what that does is it exposes students to each other in terms of some generational experiences, as well as some people are a little bit further along in their careers. Some people are a little bit starting out earlier in their careers, but all that seems to work for them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Annie, why would someone need an executive MBA in the first place?
Okay, that's a great question, because for the most part, the people that are coming back to do our program are already successful in their career, right? So I do think there are a couple of reasons why somebody does come back to get an EMBA. Number one, I would say there's oftentimes a personal goal or a personal expectation that this is something they've wanted to achieve for themselves. I see that very, very frequently when I'm meeting people, either through the admissions process or when they're first into the program. I've always wanted to get one, and so I'm back here doing it. They have plans for the future, and so they see the skill sets that the MBA in general is going to add to their skill going forward in their career, but the EMBA for them specifically, this is where they are in their career, and it just makes sense to kind of cohort with people with that level of experience. I think there are some careers that really have a trajectory that requires an EMBA. We see some people, let's say, in consulting careers or potentially engineering roles where you're going to be managing large teams of people. There's an expectation. You might have risen to that point in your career, and that's really your next step. And without the EMBA, you see yourself as, potentially there's some type of a hurdle or an expectation in the organization that you're in that you are going to meet this goal. And oftentimes those are the people who are working in organizations where they've seen the power of the EMBA because their boss has gone through the program or their boss's boss has gone through the program. And therefore, it's just an expectation in that organization. And then finally, I would say that most of my EMBAs are very future oriented. They are not sitting in the present and excited about where they are necessarily, but they're really future oriented and very career aspirational. And they are looking down the road at what I want to do. Maybe if they're 35 or 40 years old, they're looking at what they want to do when they're 55. And they're saying, I'd love to try my own business. I think this network and gathering this skill set around me and improving my current business skill set is going to get me to my own entrepreneurial goal, or potentially working in a strong pivot into, let's say, more foundation work, or moving out of one type of business and into another type of business. I'm in consulting now and I'd really like to run a manufacturing business. I see that pretty frequently in the next stage of my career. And so I think people are setting themselves up for the next thing as well.
Yeah, I think those are really great reasons. I don't know if you have something to add, Bill, but let me ask you this. Most people go into the full-time residential 2-year MBA program to make a transition of one kind or another to a different career. They may even make a geographic change, a discipline career, a change, industry change. How many people in your EMBA program actually go in thinking they're going to use the degree to make such a transition?
Yeah, I think a number of them do. As I always share with my students, anyone attempting an MBA, especially at this point in their careers, is doing it for some kind of career advancement, career disruption. And just kind of add what Annie was saying earlier, the other reasons, they want to build that professional network. Where we're located professionally is that there's very strong group of highly skilled, highly competent individual contributors, but they want to start making that move to the people management area. So leadership development and progression, I think, is important to our students. And I think part of that, and they do those transitions that you just mentioned. I think part of it, let's just be honest, I think for a compensation trajectory. I think some research that I've read is that students who do earn their executive MBA will experience over their lifetime, enhanced salary projection and compensation projection versus those that don't. So, and that's certainly legitimate for them to want to do so. So I think, but just based on my experience, and I've been at Kenan-Flagler now at 5 years, a number of our students, and I think that's sometimes the myth that you hear about executive MBA programs. All their companies are paying for it, and they're not going to want to do anything different. But that is truly a myth. And Annie, I don't know if that's been your experience, but for my students, that's not the case. A lot of them do make transitions while they're in the program, either advancements with current organizations or new roles with new employers.
I mean, the other thing an executive MBA program gets you is exposure to like-minded people who are smart and ambitious like yourself, who really want to devote themselves to their careers. And they're in different industries, they're in different disciplines. So it gives you a broad look at the landscape of possibilities and what the promises of all those different jobs can be. And I would imagine that in many cases that whets your appetite for something new and different. I also wonder,
can I amplify on that a little bit, John? Just a little bit?
Do, Annie.
Because I love what Bill said about like-minded people. And I do think one of the things that I see happening, I've been coaching the EMBA population at SMU for about 5 years. Our students come in with an expectation of career growth at some point down the way. But what I can tell you just from collecting the data and talking to people and really counting heads is that about 60% of the students within a year of graduation will have some dramatic pivot or some dramatic promotion or a change in their function within the company they're in, or a jump to a new company. And that's sometimes something that becomes revealed to them, that opportunity, while they're in the program. You know, I have a background that will allow me to do this, and so I'm going to do it. And I will tell you that from our data over the last 5 years, about 75% of our people within 48 months of graduation are making a big jump like that. So it is a very exciting environment to immerse yourself in, to really understand what your potential outcomes might be.
That's great. And Bill, sorry, I wanted to note that you said an executive MBA is not a light MBA. And I want you to amplify on that. You know, how many hours of a commitment do you think a student in your EMBA program has to make on a weekly basis? And how hard is it to balance work and your personal life with the addition of an academic life on top of all that?
Yeah, and that's a wonderful question, and it's kind of one of those good news, challenging news kind of things. Sometimes, like you said, you hear the knock that an executive MBA program is not as rigorous as full time, but just based on my experience with students and hearing their conversations and being with them sometimes in classroom, this is incredibly rigorous. And I think in many ways even more so because they are balancing a full time job. Many of them have young families. And plus, now they've got to build in margin for a program, to answer your question, that beyond just in class time, it's about another 10 to 15 hours, depending on the quarter that they're in. Additional course, study team meetings, project group meetings, as well as readings and doing their own asynchronous work. So it starts to add up pretty quickly during the course of the program.
Yeah, I bet. Annie, you have any thoughts on that, on work-life balance while in a program?
Well, I do think that when you're out there in the work environment and you have EMBA on your resume, the expectation is that you are a person who can do that. You are organized, you are career aspirational, you have, to Bill's point, not taken the easy way out and getting an MBA. You have really jumped into the mix and you've taken it on and you've been successful in doing that. And I think that's appreciated by both people who have done it themselves, if you're in an organization where it's a rite of passage to get an SMU EMBA, or by people who are aware of what the commitment level is. Because as Bill says, it's not just time and money, it's also the emotional fortitude and the ability to keep it all together during the time of the program. True.
And I'm thinking that an EMBA program on your resume also signals something else about you. It signals that you want to learn more, you want to make a more meaningful contribution, you're ready and able for it, and bring it on, right? I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, people who have EMBA degrees on their resume, I think it's sort of a badge of, wow, this person is serious about the career, they want to make a difference, and that's the kind of employee I want. Am I right, Bill?
Yeah. So I talk to my students, we always joke around, say, you realize just how much time you can build in when you have to do so. And also, I think, to your point, demonstrates that these individuals have learned to juggle multiple priorities all at the same time, because they can't stop being parents, they can't stop working, and they can't stop being a student in their various rigorous programs. So I think that says a lot about them and their ability to, if multitask is a overused term, certainly organize their lives in a way that's even more efficient. They know to kind of what their time wasters and their time enhancers are. They know how to prioritize, because obviously you have to make some choices during the course. I call it opportunity management more so than time management. So yeah, they're doing a lot while they're in the program. But again, I think those who understand what an executive MBA program involves, they certainly can understand what that individual is going to bring to them.
Yeah. And, you know, above and beyond the business basics, which they may have, or maybe they never had the opportunity to study accounting, finance, statistics, marketing, strategy. But above and beyond that, there are the leadership development exercises that can make a difference in learning how to collaborate more effectively with others. I wonder if you might talk about that aspect of the Executive MBA program, Andy. How basically this is more than just learning about business and its disciplines. It's really about becoming a true professional.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that from an employer perspective and from a business world objective, what I see happening is an expectation of somebody with an MBA, an EMBA specifically, has enough business experience to be able to really implement what they're learning in the classroom as they go along. So I think employers see that as a benefit of being in the program, right? Additionally, I know because of what I'm coaching in the classroom in a one-on-one basis, there is the expectation of a higher level of communication, a higher level of understanding of impacts to the organization, a real understanding of implication of change within the people of an organization, within processes in organization. You have the ability, we can give you the presentation and put you in front of the board, and we're going to see the results we want to see. We're going to put you in front of the big client, and we're going to see the results we're going to see. This is, I think, what comes with the stamp of EMBA.
Yeah, Bill, you would
and the
agree.
only thing I would add to that, I'm sorry, is just I think the self-awareness that they gain, that something that is so intimidating, it's so monumental. I think there's a huge confidence impact multiplier here because they realize just how capable they are, just how much they can juggle, just how much they can accomplish and get done, and more so than they probably ever thought possible at a certain level. And so I think as a coach, that's especially exciting to see that change and that transformation within that student. I know that sounds kind of dramatic, but coaches were kind of dramatic people. But it is kind of fun to see that and to see how a student, even at 20, 30, 40 years old, still grow and develop and just kind of realize really potential they never thought they had.
And many of these students probably never were coached before. So it's an exposure to a one-on-one coach as well in your programs, correct?
Oh, I love that. I don't know that they haven't been coached. I think the feedback from an executive coach feels a little different.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I would put that. I think a lot of people from the time, especially if you were born and bred in Texas and you grew up in a Texas environment, you've been coached in sports, in any type of academic competition. We're all about the performance here, at SMU and in Texas in general. But what I'm going to say is, I think that the ability to come into the SMU program, be matched up with an individual career coach, an executive coach that you can work with over 2 years of the program, the feedback feels different because it's coming from an executive coaching perspective. There's a little bit more of filtering around, can we reframe that experience? Can we learn from that experience? And I think it feels a little different for my students here in the academic environment of an EMBA.
Right. That makes sense. The other thing is part of coaching is really exploring what you really want to do with the rest of your life professionally. And I think, there are really very few people who are knowledgeable and thoughtful about how to navigate through that thinking journey to get to the right place. But someone who's a trained coach can really facilitate in a way that's extremely helpful and valuable to someone who's now learning new skills, meeting new people, getting exposed to different business situations. And I think, the magic in every executive MBA program, frankly, is all the different experiences that the students bring to the class and share with each other. Bill, I wonder if you were to say what percentage of the learning in an executive MBA program at your school can be attributed, frankly, to classmates. Sure, the professors are there to orchestrate these conversations, but classmates
adds
so much.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, just in conversations, not necessarily in coaching conversations, just when they are, I think I mentioned our cohort model, when they are first starting that first year, they're placed in a study team. And our program directors are just magical in how they put those groups together. These are about 6 or 7 students within the cohort. And they always say that is one of the most powerful part of the program experience is just being able to learn from each other, get feedback from each other, kind of experiment and try out new things, within the confines of a fairly safe and well organized, intact group. But yeah, they always say that I learn more from my classmates, and certainly I learn from these great faculty. But just the sidebar conversations, and that's why they tell me why they're in this type of program format. They want to be able to be in that immersive learning environment. That's why COVID was so tough as we were just merging out of it, that they really want to learn from each other, talk to each other. As you mentioned, our students come from many different backgrounds, different industries and sectors, and they can see how they do it in one area and how that works in maybe another area or another sector. So without a doubt, there is a lot of, again, reflection is a key educational component. They're able to kind of process what they're learning formally with each other informally, which I think is just powerful.
Yeah. Now, Annie, I'm thinking that for every student that comes, there may be 10 or more who've considered it, who've thought about it, but didn't actually decide to go. And I wonder if you might address those people who have actually thought about this, but haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah.
Tell them.
Yeah, well, I can tell you from my own experience that when I was in school, somebody pointed out my age in the cohort. I was a little bit older in my MBA cohort. And I bounced right back with, I'm going to be that age anyway, and I'm going to have an MBA. I'm going to be 30 and I'm going to have an MBA. So the point being that there's really no perfect time, I believe, to invest in yourself. I think that what I see happening is people think about it and there are hurdles that get in the way. Sometimes they're work-related hurdles, sometimes they're personal hurdles, sometimes they are, fear of overcommitting or not being able to live up to the standards. And really, the sooner you jump in and you get it done, I think the sooner you see the outcomes from taking on those challenges. So I do have people, I'm not the admissions person, I'm the career person, but oftentimes in the admissions process, I will have a touch base with a student who has specific career outcomes questions or wants to talk to one of the career coaches before they engage. And, sometimes you just have to jump in and do it now because there is no perfect time to start. There will not be a perfect alignment of your life in order to begin a program. But you will find that the time will advance anyway. And so now is probably the best time to do it.
And Bill, Annie used a phrase that I love, invest in yourself. Yeah. I happen to think that the most generous gift a person can give oneself is a gift of a great friend. I happen to think that the second most generous gift is the gift of education and how it can change your perspective, enliven your experience, bring back more fulfillment to you than almost any other thing except a good friend or a spouse. Talk a little bit about that part of the EMBA experience.
Yeah, I often share with students, this will be the most significant professional development experience that you will have possibly in your lifetime. We all have great ones. I mean, we've all kind of participated in them, but to have a 2-year intensive program, it is truly going to be incredibly important to them. Not just what they get out of the classroom, certainly the co-curricular aspects that we provide, certainly coaching that we provide. It all creates what I call a milieu of experience that I don't see how you're going to get anywhere else through maybe just a 6-month program. And there's nothing wrong with those, or just trying to do it on your own. And all those are valid, and we've all done aspects of that. But just to be in this incredibly immersive environment with, like we said, like-minded people, like motivated people, people that all want to do something, even though they're maybe very different individuals. I think it's both energizing and encouraging of the student, but it's also, I think it kind of creates, some friendly competition and say, well, they can do it, I can do it, and I'm going to contribute just as much as this other person is. And that's one thing that's sometimes different. Some students come to us maybe a little more shy. I don't have maybe a strong business background, but I want to be. But the interesting thing that I observe is that they quickly all just kind of start to mesh within that.
Right.
And start to just kind of work together, especially as they get through accounting. But all that is kind of, I think, part of the, the value of the program is just that this is going to be truly a course changing experience for them because of what they're getting out of it. But again, it's certainly the academics, without a doubt, is primary, but also all the other things that we provide along with that is also helpful and I think powerfully supplemental.
And here's the other thing, even if because maybe you have an undergraduate degree in business and accounting and statistics and marketing and strategy to some degree, you probably was years ago when you weren't in a position to apply any of it. And now, incidentally, there are, really big and heavy subjects at the fore with societal impact, things like sustainability and the green future, things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, the issue of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. All of these issues are explored in every great business school and in these executive MBA programs. So, you're getting a deep dive in what's really important today. Annie, I'm sure that's true in your program, right?
Yes, I can only agree that when you talk about experiencing this in a cohort of people who come with different experience from a business perspective, different technical skill levels, and then you mix it in with life experience. And then, as you say, one of the most important changes that we've made in the EMBA program at SMU during COVID and since COVID is really taking a look at the societal impact that businesses are making in today's world, today's economy, and bringing some of those experiential learning opportunities to our students, getting out into the firms with our employer partners and learning about what does the sustainability initiative at Toyota look like? What does the developments in human biology mean for a group like PepsiCo? How do we integrate our common goals within the community into our business environments? That's what students want to see. It's also what our employer partners want to see here in the Dallas area and in Texas in general. And so we're bringing that into the classroom. We have worked on some of our EMBA programming and have expanded it in that way. So that's a great topic of conversation to bring up when you're looking at a program. How am I going to be interacting with the business environment in general, and how can I learn from that environment in the classroom?
Yep. Good stuff. Bill, I'm sure that your program has evolved as well, your programs, plural, in incorporating all these topics and the thoughts of faculty on them.
Yes, and we're actually just recently, I learned that we're kind of recasting some of our concentrations to reflect that. Data and data science is very important. So that's become kind of an issue. And how do we use data to make decisions, to drive strategy and direction? I think the other part, just because of where we're located and kind of what we do around here, how to work well with a geographically and a generationally dispersed team. Because a lot of my students will say, yeah, I've got a team member in this country or that country, and how do I do that effectively? So those are huge challenges, with experiences very different than their own. But as Annie was saying, the other thing that's kind of interesting to see is how this actually lives out while they're in the midst of a program with with people that could be very different from themselves. Because as our regions become diversified in many different ways, those students are coming to our classroom. They're coming to our programs.
So I wonder what you would advise someone who's considering an executive MBA program. What are the things that they should be considering? Andy, why don't you tackle that first?
Okay, I love that. As a career coach, I get those questions all the time when I'm dealing with students who are either just new in the program or thinking about the program. And a couple of things that I often share with them is you really need to get out there in the environment and see, are there people who have graduated from this program that have been able to achieve what you want to achieve or what you think you want to achieve at this point in time? Are they doing the work that you wanted to do? Are they working in the environments that you want to work in? If you want to be in a private equity environment, are there people in the community who have gone through your program that can support you in private equity so that you can learn about it and you can learn what the career trajectories are and what the outcomes might be and what the work would look like, right? Some of our students come in and they're not quite sure. They only know they're committed to getting the EMBA. And so we encourage people early in the program to explore that. What are the outcomes and how do you get there? Before you go down the trajectory of interviewing for, a particular role or in a particular company, let's do some networking and see what those environments are like. Let's understand the culture. Let's understand the workflows. Do you have the technical skills that match up with the expectations in that job? Do you have the personality that will allow you to work with a variety of clients and the skill set to be able to do that? So the other thing I always tell people is to keep in mind that while you're looking at an EMBA program and you're looking at what you might get out of it during the program and in your next 5 years, you really are going to be in a work environment for the next 30 to 35 years. People don't retire anymore at 60 years old. They retire at 70 or 75. And so I always say to people, you're looking at your total career. You're not looking at your next job. So is this EMBA environment one that is going to support that going forward? Is there the support for ongoing career coaching? We have unlimited alumni career coaching that allows people to pivot and move and help people make decisions about their career after they've left the EMBA. And not just 2 years after they've left, but 5 years or 10 years or 15 years later, we have people coming back, making career decisions with us and interacting with us through our alumni career coach. And are there ways for you to stay connected to that organization? Are they out in the environment, networking, holding alumni events, doing things that you want to do so that you can stay connected to the university and be a pony for the rest of your life? That's the way I like to talk about it.
Bill, your advice to a prospective applicant?
Yeah, I often will start with, what are their career goals and their personal goals? And how does this degree fit in with that? So we really just kind of start, not too much in depth, but just how does this kind of play into what you want to do? We also talk about the culture that you're looking at. This is a 2-year commitment that you're making. So as we all say, our students are our best advocates. They are a product of the product. Talk to them. Talk about their experiences. And if they don't know someone, we can normally connect them with someone who has gone through the program, maybe in their same sector or field, or at least fairly allied with that. Culture fit I mentioned earlier is important. We always like to say that we cooperate internally so we can compete externally. This is a program where I think our students find a lot of mutual support. And then, as Manny mentioned, what is the other support that you're going to find, certainly while you're in the program, but post the program? We also offer unlimited and what we call career and leadership services post graduation with no extra fees or limits to that, and just more on time than anything else. So just look around and see what fits best for you, just like when they were undergraduates, and hopefully making good decisions about where they would attend their undergraduate institution. It sounds kind of trite, but still apply the same kind of metrics for yourself and just see how it feels to you. And then, can I be successful with these people? Is this a group that I can spend time with? Are the faculty the type of folks I want to learn from? And of course, the staff that will support me through the process.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would add is just, calendar and cadence. Programs, every program does a little bit different. Does the calendaring and the cadence of what we provide, how does that fit into your life situation and goals? And again, we have 3 really good options and more. Certainly at Kenan-Flagler, we have an online program as well as a full-time program, but just see what fits best for you. And then the other thing, and I always say this, what's your criteria for decision making? have you determined that? What are your personal and professional criteria? Because you can't separate them, of which you're going to make decisions. And once you know that, I think the decision becomes a little bit easier.
All good advice. Bill and Annie, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
So for all of you out there, we've been speaking with Annie Cottigan Dunlap, who is director of the Career Management Center at SMU Cox School of Business, and Bill Faulkner, who is the senior associate director of career coaching at UNC Kenan-Flagler Business School in North Carolina. I hope we were able to tell you where an EMBA can take your career and give you a little more insight and a little more to think about. If you want to explore more on the SMU Cox or UNC Kenan-Flagler programs, check out their websites. They're incredibly good with a lot of information. And of course, visit. Yeah, I think it's really helpful to go and meet other executive MBA students who are doing the program, who can give you the nitty gritty, and also maybe even sit in on a class to see what it's like. I think those are exercises that can really help you determine whether or not an executive MBA is right for you at this moment. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.